They tryna turn Trenton into Baby Flint. Been signs about depression on the billboards ever since. 100 years ago we was lynched. Now they use germ warfare to kill us. I'm convinced, got the evidence. I look around and it's evident. Then go down to City Hall and see so much negligence. Real art is intelligent. A true artist sends messages that speak to your intelligence. They fought and died so I can do my thing. Not to get drunk and high or join no game. I will not let none of you die in vain. For my people I bang, bang, bang. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. They say post-traumatic slavery disorder's fake, but I just tell them all to wake up. Everything we went through, what a way down a rape, bro. Isn't our genetic makeup. So I am my ancestors from block to block. Let's build like it's Tetris. We must unite, link up like a necklace. They fought and died and we disrespected. So I come to correct it. The legacy they left I protected. We only think about self and neglected. You're African but yet you rejected. No, my ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. My ancestors been through so much pain. I don't let them die in vain. I rep for you in everything I do. I rep for you in every place I go. I rep for you in everything I do. In every place I go. I do. I go.
Hey, welcome back. What y'all doing? Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment. I'm your co-host, Brother Dean, here with...
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marsha.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sister Marsha. Assalamu alaikum. This is Imam Bilal Hassan. We back in the building, man. New Freedom Exchange.
Yes, back in the building.
How y'all doing today?
Good.
Busy week for me, but inshallah, everything that I have to get done this week will get done.
Yeah, with those heavy grants, right, sister?
Oh man, it's crazy. The particular organization I work for, I write health center grants, I write Head Start grants, I write social service grants. So I gotta constantly be switching gears depending on what gets thrown at me, and some of them have more components to them than others. So my weekend is shot, but as long as I meet my deadline, it's alhamdulillah. So how are you guys doing?
You're doing good. We was in Arabic class. We saw y'all in Arabic class, man.
Yes. We was in there like that. Do.
Don't forget man, mean, moon. You know,
yes.
We was in there with the Luqat al-Arabiya with our beloved brother Imam Rashad Abdul Rahman, who will be joining us with our beloved guest actually on WURD to talk about marriage on Saturday. So we'll talk more a little bit about that a little bit later in the show. But yes, my day was so far so good. Alhamdulillah, can't complain. Again, like I said, we're in the Luqat al-Arabiya class, Imam Rashad. Also, just trying to stay afloat, trying to stay positive. As I'm saying right now, everything's looking good. I mean, the weather is nice. I mean, I think that's for a change. We see summer has quickly left us.
Very quickly.
I mean, very abruptly. as some would say. Also, I just want to give a quick plug in. Keep our brothers and sisters down in Alabama, the border, the coastline of Florida Panhandle, Alabama, and Mississippi. They just got hit by Hurricane Sally. A lot of devastation down there. A lot of devastating flooding. Some areas got over a foot and a half, almost 20 inches of rain in a short period of time. So far, I haven't heard of any deaths, which is the good news. But only time will tell if there's anything of that sort. We pray that it's not. But to definitely keep those people, keep our brothers and sisters in prayer down there in Gulfport, Mississippi, and Pensacola, Florida. Pensacola got hit hard down the Panhandle, so just definitely keep them in prayer. It's very active in the hurricane season right now. We're seeing a lot of activity in the Atlantic Basin right now over the coast of Africa, which is now prime time. So as the weather transitions here to fall, it's prime time for the peak of hurricane season. I don't want to take too much time and talk about that, but everybody needs to be prepared. You need at least to know, have money on cash on hand. You always should have, as we talked with Queen Candace. Remember, Queen Candace talked about having an emergency fund. That's something in emergency preparedness. They teach, and even back in the nation, they teach you how to jar food, how to preserve food, how to make sure you have some cash just in case power goes out, ATM machines don't work. Make sure you have any medication. If you have prescribed any medication, you have them refilled. Water to last you a week. Food to last you a week, especially not perishables, and different things like that. And just and know where to go if you have to evacuate. That's so important. Since we live up in the north, we take it for granted. Philly, PA, it's kind of inland, away from the coastline. So people here living in New York, Jersey Shore, and up and down Eastern Seaboard, we really have to worry about evacuations because a lot of us live in low-lying areas, that are prone to flooding and storm surge. So definitely consider that, when in your plannings. But before we get into it, shout out to Imam Yassin Shabazz. Wa alaikum salam, beloved. He says, keep up the great work. You're next, Imam. We want you to be on the show.
Absolutely. I already put the word out today. So he probably will be getting, if he didn't get the phone call already, he will be getting it later today because I already done put the plug in.
Put the plug in. We get the beloveds ready.
Come
man.
on over. Come on. We
want you to come on, give us the NFX workout plan, so I'm saying, we see.
Yes. We want to be lifting picnic tables like the brothers be lifting picnic tables in the park.
Yes, sir. So, without further ado, I think we ready to bring on our guest. So,
yes, sir, I was trying to do this video for my intro for him. Yeah, but you can do the traditional intro.
Let me read the bio. So let's see. Maybe it'll come up. Maybe it'll work. On your end. So let's see. So, Brother Jihad Ahmed is the founder and CEO of Ahmed Media Company, and the producer of the Living Islam Today project, which is on WURD in Philadelphia, black owned and operated media station, radio station down in Philly on the AM and FM dial. A former host of Islam Today radio show team, Jihad is the founder of the Black Love Matters Dinner, as well as a youth mentoring program called Men of Purpose Initiative. Jihad is also a dedicated and devoted community activist. Jihad has a great love for radio and media that goes back over 20 years. He is the host and producer of a Facebook Live and podcast show called Acres of Diamonds. Jihad is currently working on a new podcast show that will be called The Garden. Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta stop right there.
Let me say this. And in defense, if this is a religious show, I can't talk to you about the garden because that's a totally different.
We universal over here, man. Universal over here, man.
Come on.
The garden is something special.
Listen, he got a disclaimer on that joint.
Well, you have to have a disclaimer because the religious police will come after me. Not that I care, but the garden is it's straight adult conversation. That
but
it is.
It needs to be had. Some conversations need to be had in the community.
Absolutely.
We can't be stagnant. You've been in 20 years in the game. You know this more times than none about the community. That's what I'm saying. So we ain't gonna go there. The reason why I stopped actually in that reading at that point, because we in our class with Imam Rashad Abdul Rahman from the Atlanta Masjid, he has a class, Quran Studies and Leadership class, that myself, Sister Marsha, and Mujahideen are also in. And in this talk, we're talking about the garden, actually. And the garden, as it relates in the Quran, as it talks about the garden of your soul and the garden of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And the garden being present in the soul, our souls, our garden, which we are all striving to preserve and maintain and sustain. And that's why it says that we can get a taste of paradise now, and we get a taste of hellfire now, because it's all in the soul. It's all in the soul, all in your spirit. And also we look at it as the universe also being a garden for us to engage in. This creation being a garden for us to engage in, to learn from, and to build from. So that's why I kind of stopped. So I wanted to make that connection too, because I know it's about.
It's a different garden.
I know it's a different garden.
That garden is okay too.
Well, you're gonna get me in trouble, man. Don't do it, brother.
No, we got
Brother Imam, I respect you, so I don't mind if I get in trouble. But I don't want you to get in trouble, brother Mujahid. We don't want Sister Marsha to get in trouble.
I'm trying to pass the class now. Don't do it.
No, but so we'll get into the garden. But first, we read your bio, brother. Obviously, obviously you could say so much more about yourself. From my limited following of you and your story.
Mm-hmm.
Just observing you being as very active in the Muslim community, and especially in the Philadelphia Muslim community and the Philadelphia community at large. We want to give you a chance to really, delve a little bit into who is Jihad Ahmed. Who are you?
Misunderstood. No. Well, I've been in the Sunni community for about 26 years now. I came to Islam. I had a great love and appreciation for the Nation of Islam.
Mm-hmm.
So I had Sunni Muslims in my family, but my attraction to Islam came from the Nation of Islam, reading
Mm-hmm.
books on Malcolm, and
Mm-hmm.
later on learning about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm, Malik al-Hajj Shabazz,
Mm-hmm.
going to different talks that Minister Farrakhan would do here in Philadelphia,
Mm-hmm.
to stop the violence, tour that the minister did here in Philadelphia. I think it was like 1992 at the Philadelphia Civic Center. That was my first love and attraction to Islam.
Mm.
Now, if I seem a little shy, it's because I'm used to doing the interview, not being interviewed. I'm used to being on the other side of the mic. So be patient with your brother.
So that's good. That's good. So in that regard, you talk about you're being exposed to the Nation of Islam, to Islam, to Al-Islam proper, all that. How does that connect to your love of media? How do you fall in love with media? From is coming into Islam. How did you fall in love with what you're doing right now?
VCR tapes, cassette tapes. VCR and cassette tapes.
Throwbacks.
Because when I came into Islam, VHS tapes were, it. So it was nothing to go to Brooklyn, Masjid Taqwa, Bedford Avenue, and get
Imam Siraj
to get. Actually, we would get Imam Siraj, and we would get Sheikh Hamza Yusuf.
Yeah, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. Yes.
Yeah, and I would bring them back to Philadelphia, and I would sell them. I would reduplicate them, and it was just a love for helping to get the message of Islam out to the African American community.
And why is that important though? Because as you said, there are different influences of Islam in America, throughout the world, and as you said, there's something unique that attracted you. Obviously, that's probably why you want to share that uniqueness to your fellow community.
I'm glad you said that. Coming into Islam, I remember saying to a brother, I want to become a Muslim, but I don't like the way the Sunnis look. The men, y'all look big. They look out of shape. They had these big beards. I said I wanted to become a Sunni Muslim, but I still wanted to rock my my suits and my neckties and my bow ties.
Sure.
So I say that to say that I wanted to help put out the message of Islam for African Americans so we can have our own identity. I used to drive all the way, I live in South Philadelphia, so I used to drive all the way across town to two places. Chris Cleaners up 52nd Street is no longer there. And I would go up to Masjid Allah, the old Masjid Allah, Masjid on Ogons Avenue, just to get my Muslim journal. I felt as though that the teaching of Imam W.D. Muhammad was, for us here in America, that was Islam. His character, the style that he still was teaching and preaching to his followers, the whole do for self mentality.
Nice. So give us a preview into your work in media. Tell us about your shows. We just talked about so you can be in the interviewer. Give us a preview into your shows, the topics. What's that like for you?
I started doing radio with the United Muslim Movement about 20 years ago. At the time, we were at we was at 1340 WHAT, right off of City Line Avenue in the West Philadelphia area. Came in one day, a brother by the name of Hakeem, may Allah have mercy on his soul. He asked me to come in and be a co-host with him. I had never been near a microphone, touched a microphone, let alone been on the radio.
That's what Deen did to me.
Yeah. So that was my first introduction. And as I became on the board at the masjid, they wanted a younger people to host the show with new ideas and so on and so forth. So I got right involved and had the third Saturday of every month. We were on from 2 to 5 every Saturday. Later on, the station got sold. Myself and Brother Qasim took the station out of our own money and financed it and took it to a Jewish radio station.
Whoa. It's like,
yeah, man.
I'm gonna let you go ahead. I have a question for that.
The numbers was nice. Their wattage wasn't good. So it was a talk radio, but it had an attraction for Polish and Russian and Jewish talk shows. So it was kind of hard for us to get that African-American audience that followed us, to get them to follow us over to this new radio station. But the numbers was beautiful. It was very affordable. The masjid wasn't paying. Him and I was paying. So we came to a decision that it's not working. We're not getting the black listening ship over here. So we went to where we are now, 900 AM WURD. So fast forward, the masjid, after being in the radio business for 20-something years, wanted to give it up. They didn't want to do it no more. They wanted to go more into podcasts. I didn't want that. I wanted to hold on to being on the radio. Although I think podcasting and Facebook and Instagram is the new way, I was old school. I wanted to hold on to radio because I felt as though that everyone did not have a radio station. Everybody didn't have access to social media. So that audience of radio, I wanted to keep that. So what I did was I took over the contract with the radio station. August the 1st was our first show, our inaugural show. Imam Siraj Wahaj was my guest speaker, and we raised some money. I changed the name. It's no longer called Islam Today. It's called Living Islam Today.
Got it.
And it's the same concept, but it's under a different management. So I don't have the management is not the masjid anymore.
Yes, the bureaucracy. No more bureaucracy.
So alhamdulillah, I don't have to go through all that. I do have brothers and sisters that sit on this project with me, and they give me advice, and we advise one another on different topics and themes that we can talk about. But I want to talk about things that I want to push the envelope. That's why last week we had a brother, Habib Akandi, from London, England. We talked about sex. We talked about how there are 14 different nerves on a woman's clitoris that, as men in the community, we need to discuss. We need to talk about this type of stuff.
Sure.
You really need to have conversations about pleasing your wife and your wife pleasing you. Of course, in a respectable way, of course.
Of course.
I also do a program that I've been doing here in this studio called Acres of Diamonds. I got tired of doing religious talks. I said I can't reach the people I wanted to reach, because I wanted to have members of the Nation of Islam on my program. I wanted to have clergy members outside of Islam on there. I wanted to have doctors and lawyers and law enforcement officers on here. So I created this studio here where I've been for the past 2 years. We're on every Monday night from 6 to 8, and we talk about everything on here. We talk about the down low in the community. We talk about HIV in the Black community. We talk about education, politics. I created this part right here because I wanted to have my own type of show, whereas though I wasn't talking about religion. Religion in this room right here is off limits. So it's like, once you come into the door, we're going to talk about any and everything. So when I wanted to do the Living Islam Today program, I found out that I needed to create an LLC. So I created Ahmed Media. For me, Ahmed Media is the umbrella for Acres of Diamonds, for Living Islam Today project, The Garden, and whatever else we come up with. Being Facebook Live and podcasts and on Instagram and everything.
Nice. So talk a little bit about how important it is to have to kind of cross the boundaries and cross the lines, because you just spoke about having a show where you're bringing in members of the Nation of Islam, you're bringing in members of the general clergy in your area. And so how important is it for us to have those conversations across religious lines as a people?
Well, I think for us, growing up as a Christian, the Black church was the bedrock for the African American community for me. Crossing those lines and having those conversations are very important in the sense of we're all here. We're all on the same block. We all deal with the same thing on the block, such as drugs, violence, and everything. We have to be able to have those conversations. And for me, this is just for me, I felt as though that the masjids, the imams, the students of knowledge, they were not having these conversations that I felt as though needed to happen. I don't think they were representing the thoughts and the concepts of African-American Muslims here in America. That those of us that think on the lines of just being the middle,
Right.
My definition of middle may be different from everybody else's, but I just really felt as though that, like, for example, you would never tune into Living Islam Today and we're having a show on the essence of wudu or prayer. We just ain't gonna do that. Cutting edge conversations that we as Muslims have to deal with in our families every day. Those are the type of conversations that I want to have on Living Islam Today. And for Acres of Diamonds, I want to talk about any and everything, especially if it's going on in our community. I hope I was able to answer your question, sister.
No, you did.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to that. You've been speaking about how you wanted to have any and every kind of conversation, right? And it didn't necessarily have to be couched in religion, but it's
Yes.
important for us to also acknowledge that those are things that we experience, whatever religion you ascribe to. And so, and I haven't heard any of these shows, and I'm interested to listen.
Shame on you.
Shame on me.
Yeah,
shame on me. But guess what? It won't be that way for long. I absolutely will tune in. But I just wanted to make the point that we do, as a people, have to stop living in these bubbles.
Yes.
And make distinctions between, my regular life and my Islamic life. Like, it's all infused together. And so if we're not having certain conversations, then we're either making things that need to be discussed taboo, and then our children are growing up and not knowing how to function in all aspects of their lives. And so it's so important to.
But the funny part about it, and I'm sorry for cutting you off. The funny part about it, that's the host in me. So forgive me. See, the funny part about it is we are having these conversations, but we're having them via chat. Many of us belong to these group chats, and I'm part of a group chat, and it's called Talking After Dark. You'd be surprised, amazed of how many Muslims are on there that are having these types of conversations. And it's like, I'm not saying that all these conversations have to take place in the masjid, but there should be something created where as though we can have these conversations and we don't have to go on a group chat and leave the community to have these conversations, because people are looking for an alternative. You're Muslim, but it's like something's missing. If a person is struggling in their faith and you're just telling them, just read this hadith, just read this surah, and it's going to be okay. No, there's some real issues that are going on in people's minds and in their hearts. And the communities, to me, are not addressing these issues.
Well, you bring up some very valid points, man, and I just want to put this into the atmosphere too. I mean, you mentioned the masjid. You mentioned we're talking about media, and I like to put into context. Media, as we know, is the fourth power, what they call the fourth power. You know what I'm saying? You have the executive branch, the legislative, the judicial, but then you got this media, right? And it's so important that we get a piece of the pie. We get a piece of establishing ourselves within this media. So I'm saying, to tell and to communicate our narratives and to communicate on these issues. Now, we was looking back at some of the artifacts, and even the minister Minister Farrakhan has his own media. Imam Muhammad had his own media, his own ministry. When he first took office, we saw all of the radio stations, even international, even down to Jamaica, that they were streaming his lectures down in the Caribbean, in South America. So we can't tell about the importance of media. It's very important. Now, as it relates to these communal issues in our community, and the masjid. Now, the masjid, and I hate to do it, but on this show we have to get juicy, man. The masjid's purpose is not for us just to come in prayer. Yes, the first thing we do is establish prayer. That's the first thing. That's the foundation. You establish prayer. After you establish prayer, then what? Then you need to build on that, which is the work, which is the zakat, which is the fasting, which is engaging the community, which is doing all of those things that matter. So right now, what we have, in this, in my opinion, in the Afro-American Muslim community, we have a lot of just massages where people just pray. Sometimes people pray 5 times a day in the masjid if it's open. Otherwise, we just have Jummah masjids, which is open for Friday. So how can you expect to get anything done if, in fact, you don't have a center, or you're not establishing centers that are community centers, not just masjids? Community centers where you have a school, where you have this radio station inside the actual building itself, not separate. Now we have to go outside to the Jew, and no disrespect, but we don't have to go. Shouldn't have to go to those guys, man. So I'm saying we have went to those guys. Those guys control majority of the media. Majority of the media is controlled by someone else. So So when we get there, we have to make our offerings and try to make a deal and do all this stuff. No, we don't have to do all that when we can take control of our narrative. So my question to you is that, with all that being said, right? We understand the community issues. We understand that, in your opinion, in what you're doing, the work that you're doing, have people been supportive, especially the African American Muslim community in Philadelphia, but maybe domestic? Maybe you use radio, so maybe you have other people tuning in from other parts of the country. Yes, I'm saying, are people supportive to what you've been doing as the past 20 years, and recently, have they been supportive of you making the transition that you have made into this new Jihad Ahmed Media Group, and etc.?
Alhamdulillah, I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to say no.
Good.
Because
thank you for your honesty.
you have some people who don't want to see anything that you do succeed. Mm-hmm. So it was like when I broke off, it was like, well, who does he think he is?
Right.
Oh, he's going to have a show and it's going to be a bunch of Nation of Islam people on there, and no, that wasn't the case. I believe everybody should have a voice at the table.
That's right.
Because I think that there's so much that we can do.
Right.
And I just think we limit it, man. I think we limit ourselves. For me, I can't tie the things that I'm doing now to a masjid.
That's right.
Because the concept and the thought of what I want to do is bigger than the masjid. I don't have time for the masjid to say, oh, you can't do this and you can't do that. Why not? Why not? Why can't we push the envelope? I'm like, it's oblivious to me that a masjid today doesn't have a radio podcast studio set up in their masjid. Why? Why have we? Why do we have to go to another place to do it? This is something that we should do, and it should be something. It could be done in a way where as though we're training our youth.
Yes.
So your children and my children should be our interns. My daughter should be here right now, filming, putting it on Instagram and taking pictures. But, they're not. There's another force out there that has our children. So in lieu of the masjids creating these type of things, you got to go other places and make it happen. My desire is to create like a movement, man. I go to Atlanta a lot. I have two sons that live in Atlanta, so I try to visit them like every other month for a weekend. I drove past Tyler Perry's studio. Phenomenal.
Laid out,
bro. Laid out. That thing was like, wow, here's a man that was homeless. Here's a man that was down out on his luck, but he believed in himself and he had faith. He had faith in what he was doing. He didn't let nobody from the church. He didn't let nobody in his family deter him from. His mother told him, "Son, just stop. It's not going to go nowhere." But he had a desire in his heart to see things, see his vision put on a bigger screen. So for me, it's about creating something that's tangible for us today, to sink our teeth into it and give it to our children. Because everything that the four of us doing, if we're not leaving it for our children, then we're just doing it for ourselves. We have to be able to leave it for them, man. It's just, it's like in vain if we're not doing it for them.
Right. And so I want to extend the point that you made about the masjids being this sort of place, or beacon of light, so to speak, right? Because I just want to, and I don't necessarily have a question, I just want to kind of say that, for our listeners and for, the imams that are listening and, those who, do attend the masjid, just take heed to the fact that was presented in that manner, because there are so many people out here who have that same opinion, opinion of the masjids, that it's supposed to be this place of just like where everyone comes to for everything, and we're not. Our masjids are not that. And what we're finding as a community is that it's harder to get things done in the masjid. And
such an oxymoron.
Exactly. It should be the exact opposite.
Right.
So I'm the principal of Clan Muhammad School at Masjid Muhammad Newark, and so I trust me, I know the struggle. Just being having to pull teeth to get certain things done. So I just wanted to kind of extend on that point because it's important for us as a people to hear that opinion is everywhere. And if we don't do something about it, then we'll continue to have masajids that are empty, or that you just come to for Juma, or that you come to make your prayer and leave. Because what else is there at that place when that's supposed to be the place you come to for, not just for refuge, but also,
to charge your battery.
Absolutely. And the only battery, and I just want to make this point, is that prayer is not the only battery that we have that needs to be charged. To that point.
Right. It's so phenomenal that you said that. It takes me back when I was involved on the board, and I had a committee at the Masjid operations at the United Muslim Masjid. One of my charges was to put together the Juma rotation. So I got this concept from listening to lectures by Imam W.D. Muhammad, the term Talim. So we would bring people in for the Friday Juma, Friday night talk, Saturday talk, radio program, and we would end the weekend program with the speaker and had a Sunday Talim. That type of concept of having life in the masjid, to me, it's gone. And I'm only speaking about the masjids that I go to. Is even before Corona,
talk about it.
The masjids it's dark. It's nothing going on there that can attract an 18, 19-year-old. We had in Philadelphia, and I'm sure you guys have it there, the Jawala Scouts. Okay, so when they reach that age of they outgrow the Jawala Scouts, where do they go? What do we have in place for them? The boys and the girls. So when we don't have nothing in place, people go other places. They go other places. So I'm not opposed to people creating something outside of the masjid. I think that there should be a after school center, weekend center, after hours center where the young Muslim kids can go somewhere and they can be like the other Muslim kids. We can have it separated, the sisters over there, the brothers over there, but why not have a TV with a 60-inch screen in there so they can play the Xbox? They're going to do it at home. Why not have something set up for the sisters so they can sew nice, like you remember, Brother Mujahid, MGT classes, like those life skill things are missing in the masjid. I don't have the patience to go to the masjid. I can sit in class and I can sit there for a good half an hour. After that, my mind is like, I'm thinking about some media stuff. I'm thinking about how come they're not recording this class? How come it's not on YouTube? How come it's not on Instagram? I've become exhausted. I'm not renegade against the masjid. No, let me just make sure I'm clear.
You sound like a renegade, Jihad. You sound
like a rebel, man.
My relationship with the masjid, some of them, no names will be mentioned, it's like a relationship. It's like my heart is scarred.
That's right.
I've been scarred.
That's right.
So, and I know that, we're supposed to forgive and so on and stuff like that. I'm not there yet because I feel as though the same reasons why I may have left or been put out, I see that it's still going on in a lot of the masjids. And that's just my opinion. That's just my humble opinion of, I think that it has to be like when the United Muslim Masjid the United Muslim movement was brought into existence, it wasn't about a masjid per se. Brother Lukman had the concept of having something, and that's why he called it the United Muslim Movement. The movement was supposed to be the hub of everything, the mothership. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that word.
No, the mothership. We've been
right?
talking about the mothership.
So
go ahead.
After, underneath all of those other things, you had the what? You had the masjids. We were supposed to have masjids in South Philly, masjids in North Philly, masjids in West Philly, masjids all across the city, serving the people. Somewhere along the line, we went against what the blueprint was, or what it was that was trying to be put together. So, you know, then that's why we have so many masjids here in the city of Philadelphia. But what is the direction of these masjids? I know it's to feed the people. I know that it's to educate the people on prayers. But what else? What else? What else is in place? What else?
You're talking good, man. You're talking real good. I mean, these are the same communal issues. I mean, believe it or not, Jihad, it's not just Philly, man. Philly is just the Muslim capital. Y'all should be leading the Jamaat. I mean, y'all got all those ox down there, man, and sisters. I mean, I'm like to have all those masjids. No, literally, to have a masjid in someone's house in a basement. Literally, a masjid on every corner of Philadelphia. And you mean to tell me the Muslim community there is behind the eight ball? Everyone is talking above each other? Everyone's talking against each other? This is some serious issues, man.
People go to where they feel as though they're going to have an impact.
Okay.
That's where people go. You know, you want to go to where you feel as though that you're going to be able to contribute, it's going to be accepted, and you're going to be able to do good works. I'm the old school way, man. Like, you know, I yearn for the old days, because to me, the old days were the best days for me, because we were respected once upon a time. You know,
sure, definitely.
Today here in Philadelphia, this is no lie, man. This is no lie. A great majority of the janazas that take place here in the city of Philadelphia, they're Muslims, Muslim males, female Muslims, but more Muslim males than anything. You pick up, you go on social media, so-and-so janazah. You're like, damn, I just seen him. Shot down, gunned down, 17, 18 years old. There was a friend of mine that was shot yesterday over something that's like really crazy, man. SubhanAllah. And I mean, this individual wasn't Muslim, but I say that to say that, you know, the African American life is not. It's not a sacred thing. Not that it ever was to other races and other people. And, you know, not just with the cops killing killing black men. I'm talking about when we have other Muslims and other black men just killing each other. I'm tired of turning on the news, and every time you turn around, another killing.
Perfect segue. Excellent segue into the second half of this conversation. Dean, do you have that clip loaded up?
The clip is loaded, man. We want to take it to another level.
Put that on, man.
Because right now we've been addressing it all along, but this is going to be a little succinct, two and a half minute observation from a young brother who could actually bridge what we're all talking about right now, and also with our audience, because that's what we're about here, right? The exchange is, of course, we're talking about issues, we're talking about problems, but we also are alluding to, we also prepare to lead the transition into the solutions, right? So here's the young brother, and we'll just let him speak for himself, and we'll be right back. This is New Freedom Exchange, your social or cultural expression for social dignity and community development empowerment, with your host, Brother Dean, Sister Marsha, Imam Bilal, and we're here with our special guest, Jihad Ahmed, the radical media connoisseur, holding it down. We'll be right in trouble, man. You good.
I was talking to an OG, and he was telling me about how his generation is far greater than our generation. And it was a civil conversation that we was having, but he was telling me that his generation that he grew up in had way better morals, and they carried themselves different. And all of this may be true, but he looked at it as if his generation was innately more intelligent, smarter, more focused, and all these different things than the current generation, and that it was just God had just gave this generation bad luck and made us all ignorant or something. But I was explaining to him that if you look at farming and a farmer, when the farmer plants a seed and he waits and sees what type of crops is produced, and he uses the same seeds consistently over every season, and he uses the same seeds every year in and year out. And this year, his crop is just horrible, and it's not what it usually is. The last thing he's going to blame is the seed itself. He'll look at the weather. He'll look at the soil. He'll look at all these different climate changes. You know, if it was intense rain. The last thing he's going to do is look at the seed and blame the seed for the bad crop. But the first thing we do is look at the generation. The first thing we do is look at the seed and say, oh, I guess we just got a bad crop this generation. No, it ain't got nothing to do with the crop. Who is determining our climate? Who is determining our social climate? Who determined all those things? Who is making up the soil that this new generation has to grow up in? You know, who is making up their environment? Who dictates their environment? That's something you got to think about. You know, we can't just look at them as if they created their own environment. We're bypassing a lot of history that happened. And history is important. We're bypassing a lot of different things from the single parent households, you know, and all these different things, the lack of men in the community. These things have an effect on this generation. And that is why we're acting out like we're acting out. It has nothing to do with, he was telling me, I used to walk miles to school and we used to do these different things and we were more determined than you guys were. Maybe. But if you want me to believe that if another generation was brought up in our current environment with social media or whatever it may be, that another generation would be vastly more successful because they're just superhuman. There is no superhuman. We're all human beings. We're all placed in the environment. We all adapt to our environment. Yeah, the genes are skinnier nowadays. We just adapted to the environment. It is what it is. We need to stop blaming ourselves and doing this whole generational wars and, you know, old versus young. It has nothing to do with that. We just need to, it is what it is. We're in the current climate that it is. You know, the generation is like it is. My generation is like it is. Instead of complaining about it, go in there and let's change it. Let's talk, you know, let's talk it out. Let's have conversations. Because all this blaming and he did this and I would do this, it's not solving anything.
Excellent. Beloved is on fire. Beloved is on fire.
Wow.
Spinning that hot fire, man.
He was spitting the truth, man.
Definitely the truth. You know, one thing I like to say is that, you know, sometimes we let go of our children too soon.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that doesn't have an effect is ignorant. Right? Like so to think that you can just walk away or not attend to something. I mean, he related it to farming, right? You just don't walk away. You just don't walk away from your crop. You just don't expect to not water the seeds and something happens. And I've had this conversation with people before, you know, about, you know, we were just talking about the masters, but I think this is a community thing as a whole. We talked about how, like, if you're going to, I'll use the masjid for this example. You go into the masjid, you see a population that's like, I'm going to say 50 and up. And in some masjids, that's probably young. And then you may see in that same masjid, you know, a few little children running around, right? Possibly some teenagers, but not very many. And then there's this whole gap. There's this whole gap of participation in the masjid or presence in the masjid. I'll use that word presence. And that relates to somehow, somewhere down the line, you know, through the journey, letting go, right? And I think we do that as a community also. So let's just move back a little bit from religion. You can't expect not to put into your children something and then they come out to be like these phenomenal people. Yes, it happens for some, but for the large majority, if you're not watering the seed, if you're not engaging them. If you're just leaving them alone to their own devices, then anything can come out. And like the brother said, you can't then blame the seed for what it came out to be, because it wasn't watered or nurtured or fed with whatever sort of plant food it was supposed to have. That makes no sense. And so when he said it, I was just like, oh wow, that's so simple, but yet so complex when you go back and think about all the components that make up what he was describing. But it's absolutely true.
I know here in Philadelphia, what we tend to say is, the mayor should be doing more, the police commissioner, the district attorney should be doing more. But it's like, okay, you mothers and fathers should be doing more. When these kids is coming into these houses, you're not coming into my house and you ain't got no job, but you got what's the name of those sneakers?
Jordans.
No, not the Jordans. You got
the Yeezys. The Yeezys.
Yeah. You got that. You got the car. You got all of these fashionable things, but you're behind and got no job. So therefore, us as parents, when they coming into the crib and they got these things, wait, where you get that from? You got a job at Target or Walmart that I don't know about? Then you need to be paying me some rent. But a lot of the things that's going on, we as parents are allowing these things to happen. So the society is letting it happen. The politicians is letting it happen. Law enforcement is letting it happen. But it's happening right in the house. We're not correcting the evil that we see. We just either afraid, we just try to make like we don't see what's really going on, or we just don't care.
Yeah.
And I work in law enforcement, so I see it every single day.
Yeah, go ahead, Marsha, because I want to talk about that law enforcement.
I was just gonna say, talk to us about community activist Jihad. Talk to us about him.
I'm all marched out. That's all I can say. No, I think the community activism has many different levels. I think there's room for the demonstrations and the marches. I don't think tearing up 52nd Street where we live at. I don't think tearing up North Philadelphia where we live at. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think tearing up Center City is the answer. I think that we can have an impact when we come together. That's just one way of the demonstration. I think we have to have think tanks where people come together, and we have to figure out another way how to hit the society. Got to hit them financially. How did they do it in Montgomery? They had a boycott. To me, the best thing that the black ball players, NFL, baseball, basketball, what they did, they said, we're not playing. We're not playing. We're not playing for no teams until there's some type of justice for the killings that's going on. And I think when you shut down that money of the Jews and you shut down that money of white America, they're gonna pay attention. They're gonna pay attention. But when you tearing up stuff, you tearing up areas like they tore up 52nd Street, the Muslim stores and the regular the naileries and all that, bro. Them the joints that we gotta go to. The mom and pop stores. Where we gonna go? We sure enough can't go in Montgomery County. We can't go to the suburbs. So everything that we got, we just tearing it up because it's rage. Nah, that's not how we should be thinking. Because when you do that, guess what? If you get too much out of hand, and Philadelphia is lucky, when the National Guard did come in, they was just a security parameter. They didn't really come out and force like, yo, we're gonna really put the National Guard out there, and they in the hood. You know what I'm saying? We didn't get that. We were blessed here in Philly. We tore up stuff, but the National Guard didn't really come in and put their thing down like Trump wanted them to.
Well, you're mentioning a lot, and I want to talk about specifically as it relates to what you do in law enforcement, but we're connecting it to the African American Muslim community, and specifically African American community, the African American Muslim community too. The question is that I'm going to give you some backstory. There's some people in the Jamaat that believe that the Muslims shouldn't be having tea parties, as they describe it, with the law enforcement, meaning we shouldn't be meeting with the law enforcement at all. There's some imams who have said this. You know, I'm not gonna mention any names. You know, but I don't run away from topics like this, because obviously I'm not talking about going to the extreme. I'm not talking about having, you know, tea parties and think it's all lovey dovey. We're not talking about that. We're talking about actual having dialogue. So from your vantage point, as someone who works in the community, in that field, what do you see the role of the African American Muslim is to the solutions of these unrest between our community and law enforcement?
We have to be involved. That's just point blank, because you can't be a believing Muslim and have your partner, black or white, assault somebody, put their knee on somebody, shoot somebody, and you're just going to stand there. I mean, I could not have been a police officer in Minnesota, Minneapolis, while that police officer had his knee on that black man's neck for 9-8 minutes, and you just stood there. I mean, that's just not Islam. That's not Islam for us. And if that is your Islam and you allow that, then you're a coward and get out the religion, because you're doing nothing for us. See, we have to be out there, and the Muslims, I don't care what profession we're in, medical, law enforcement, we have to be the voice of reasoning. We have to be the one to say, no, we're not going to shake down the drug dealer. No, we're not going to shoot these people. I see so many shootings, and being in law enforcement, people tend to say, well, could have shot him in the leg, or you could have shot him in the arm. I have to say that there has to be other ways that we, as law enforcement officers, deal with a situation where somebody has a baseball bat or somebody has a knife. So if you coming at me, you 4, 5, 6 feet away, you got a knife. Why is it that my first thing that I do, I go for my gun? They're afraid. They are afraid. So you have to think like, let me get some distance between this individual. You got a partner. It's two of y'all. If y'all got to run around the car. Now, mind you, he doesn't have a gun in his hand. He has a baseball bat. He has a knife. Like, you got to kind of like think things through a little bit different than what we're doing now. So the conscious thinking Muslim has to be a police officer. He has to be a sheriff. He has to be a good lawyer. He has to be these things, because we are the vicegerents here on earth. So we have to remember everything that we do, Allah is watching us. And we're supposed to be going by the teachings of our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So any and everything we do, we supposed to be conscious of that. And we should not let the wrong go on, and we're just standing there being part of the wrong. Whether we pull the trigger or not, we're still wrong.
I mean, this is deep. This is deep.
Yeah,
this is deep, man.
I'm like, you got me thinking over here. I mean, I have a question in relation to what you just said, and that's that you talked about the fact that we need to be involved or engaged, right? What does that look like? What does that look like? I mean, you just talked about like being a police officer or being the sheriff, but what about, just general community members? What is that engagement? What is that relationship with law enforcement look like that's healthy?
Well, it's sad to say now, when you think about law enforcement, you think about the law enforcement officer, male or female, black or white, that they are the bad guy. And that's not true. There's most officers in law enforcement want to go to work, want to put their 8 hours in, and they want to go home to their family. They don't want to, per se, kill a black man or whatever. I don't know if I know any officers that think that way. And if I do, I don't want to be nowhere near them. Community engagement is very important. You have to engage in the community. If I was a foot patrol officer walking the street in my area, I would make sure that I know the people in my area, the people in my district, the poppy stores. I would make sure I would be seen, not just to sign that log book every hour, but to go in there, to walk in there, to have a conversation. Because where it is now for African American law enforcement officers, it's about trying to build trust. So we're kind of like, you're trying to build the trust, but you're still trying to do your job at the same time. And it's not a thin line, because it should be a natural thing to want to serve the people. And that's what law enforcement officers' job is to do, to serve and protect the people, not hurt them, not brutalize them, not kill them. So as a Muslim, that's my job. When I take people into custody, I'm kind to them. I only come out of pocket when you come out of pocket against me. So if you're like being nasty to me, I'm not going to be nasty, but I'm not going to be that same mellow, even kill type of person, Officer Jihad Ahmed. No, if you turning it up, I'm going to turn it up, but I'm not going to disrespect you. Because, I mean, you hear all the time, they call you all kind of names. It's just ridiculous. But you have to engage with the people and show them that I'm from the community. I'm here for you. And that's one of the problems here in the city of Philadelphia. When you hire people outside of Philadelphia and you bring them into the hood, they're afraid. Right. They're afraid. And it ain't just white officers, black officers too. Yeah, man.
Yes. Yeah, we got some comments, shut up. They say you're speaking the truth, Brother Jihad, man. You know what I'm saying? Salam. Ruhi Thompson on the check-in. Oh, we got Brother Bari. He said, whenever there's a problem, any kind of problem, you have to have all the parties involved at the table when you're looking for answers, if you really want solutions. That's correct?
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, I agree. But at what, my thing is, at what point do we sit at the table and we say, you know what, this is what we're going to do? For me, and I keep saying for me, we can't, I can't control the whole Philadelphia area and try to be an activist in the whole city of Philadelphia. It's too big. I like what a good friend of mine, Brother Akbar, told me. He said, you take your block where you live at, you take your area where you park your car and you reside, and you put your flag down. And this block right here, this is a safe zone. We ain't hustling. Y'all ain't hustling no drugs. Y'all ain't bothering the young sisters. Y'all ain't bothering the old ladies. Everybody take an area and focus on that area. You can't do the whole city. I was part of here in Philadelphia when we did the 10,000 man the fearless 10,000 men. Brother Lukman, Brother Dennis Muhammad, Captain Dennis Muhammad from the Nation of Islam, Charlie Mack. At that time, it was Police Commissioner Sylvester Johnson, who's a Muslim, by the way. They were meeting every week, and they came up with something. The 10,000. No, it wasn't the 10,000 fearless. It was something else. It was 10,000.
When y'all was doing the walks, because y'all did the walks too.
We were doing the walks. This is like prior to things that have been going on the past 5 years. I'm talking about like maybe 10, 15 years ago. We met up at the conventions. We met up at Temple, up at the big center that Temple has up on North Broad. And we came together, and everybody was supposed to take an area. Go to your area. Have conflict resolution on your area. Not the whole city. You got to break it up. You got to break it up. There's a brother here in Philadelphia whose son was killed through violence. Brother Stanley Crawford. Now y'all want to interview somebody, y'all need to interview Brother Stanley Crawford. He's got the Black Male Council of Philadelphia, an excellent organization. We march all throughout the city. But not only do we march throughout the city, in different areas of the city, we sweep. We clean. We show a presence of us being there, not just walking down the street saying, come on, black man, get out here. Where you at? Where the men at? No, we doing that. We're marching, but we're also showing a presence of cleaning up the community, showing the people that there is love from us black men and that we are concerned about what's going on. I'm gonna get you Brother Stanley's information, man. You have a very good interview with him. He was on
Definitely.
He was on that town hall thing they had last night here in the city of Philadelphia. Well, it wasn't just in Philly. It was on social media.
Oh, definitely. We'll have to link up with him because we have this concept with the brothers roundtable that was introduced.
I like that.
It was introduced by Imam Hamid Abdullah from out in Memphis. He started here in Memphis, Nashville. They have chapters in Memphis, Nashville, and Dallas, Texas now, where they have rules of engagement, like you said. They have they call it what they call it, Dean?
The black code.
The black code. You said we won't sell drugs on this corner. I don't. We could pull it up, but that's something that we want to reciprocate. That we work on to reciprocate here in the Northeast region. that we wanted to take a reciprocate in Philly, in Jersey, in PA. Just New York City, where I'm at, everywhere. Because
Imam Siraj did it, man, with Marsha Taqwa, man. 20-something years ago, they didn't call the police in to get the drug dealers off of Bedford Avenue.
Right.
No, they took care of themselves. It got so deep that the drug dealers called the police on the masjid.
They were scared.
The Muslims.
Yeah, they were scared.
And look at it. Even as bad as Chicago is, and I think it's number one with homicides in the country, and I think Philadelphia is number two now.
Yeah, not that far behind. Yep.
So, but once upon a time, the Nation of Islam really had a hold on Chicago. They had a lot of the projects. They had those contracts and so on and so forth. Like, you got to go back to having a male presence, man. Mm-hmm. And we have to first we have to establish our homes. Homes.
That's first. Mm-hmm.
Establish our blocks. And once we get our block where we live at together, okay, let's do the next block.
I like this, man. This is good, man.
Good. If we're alive, right? And so, like, as we do,
keyword, if we're alive, right?
Yes, if we're alive.
Like we said, socially alive, in the sense of, as Brother Jihad just mentioned, about the importance of taking on ownership and responsibility, right? Because if you own a piece of what you own, nobody's doing that to what you own. If nobody's coming into your personal home, destroying your house, selling drugs, if you have ownership, if you have stake in the community. So not only do the community members have to have law officers and politicians and business people that respect the citizens, but the citizens themselves have to have a responsibility and obligation to establish what they want in their life.
Yeah, but the thing is, let's stop playing around.
He sounds radical now.
Because people say what happened. No, let's stop. Because people are talking about in the comments. You talked about Imam Siraj. No disrespect. I have utmost respect for Imam Siraj Raj. I love him as our Muslim brother. I love him, man. I love Imam Siraj. I love Imam. They say Imam Yahya Abdullah did in Dallas, Texas, the same thing 3 decades ago.
Yeah,
much love to these cats. Okay, it's 2020. What are we doing now?
We're talking. It's a lot of talk.
Stop talking,
But you know what? It's a lot of talk, but how many masjids are having these conversations? How many Friday khutbahs are dedicated towards talking about the violence that's taking place? One imam told me, he said, brother, they've been killing. It's been killing since the beginning of time. So I'm looking at him like, bro, like, what do you mean? Right. Like, I'm sorry. I've lost family members through violence. I lost friends. I used to work at a charter school, and I've watched little boys that I've seen go from kindergarten and graduate from the school. 2-3 years later, they get murdered. I got a son 19 years old to walk the streets of Philadelphia, and it's not a night that goes by that I don't think about him and thank God every day after he gave me life. I think about my son. He's alive to see another day. So for me, can't no imam tell me nothing if you not out there in the front line. If you ain't out on the front line, bro, stay in the masjid, teach the seerah, teach wudu, because no, for real. That's what I was talking about. There's different levels of people and their involvement and their engagement. So if that's your involvement, All you want to do is preach and teach from the minbar, have your classes, do it, bro. But when we assimilate and the Muslim men want to get out there and do something, then you need to have your butt out there too. You have to.
Yeah, and that's the way of the prophet. Like, that's the irony of it also, right? We talk about the seerah, we talk about the sunnah, but the prophet was a common man, just like us. He was one of the brothers that we walked the streets with. I mean, he said if any of the messengers were here, they'll be down with the people who call Black Lives Matter, the protesters. Because at the end of the day, you're harming human innocence. You're violating the justice of humanity. And so, as a person of faith, myself, and I've been with imams. I've been on both sides, just like you as a law enforcement. You've been on, you can see both sides, and there is I think that the masses, and that's why I really like media, because in the media world, and media literacy, you actually get to communicate what is not commonly presented to the masses. That's really what we're battling. We're battling the ideas of the masses, what's portrayed to the masses. So you only get what you are, and we want to show that clip. But I was impressed about this clip with our dear brother Malcolm, how he addressed the importance of media, how they use media to make the victim the criminal, and the criminal the victim, right? And so all these things are bombarding not just our families, our children, but they're systematically in place in our community. And so as Brother Jihad is bringing this to our attention, and you can see the passion and the vigor in him, because he's not just talking, though it seems like we're just talking now, right? We're just having this conversation, but it's a key point that he just made us aware of, and that we should take note, and that community members, you are responsible. Like the Prophet said, all of you are ra'i, all of you are responsible, and you'll be held accountable for what's in your charge. So though the imam, though the teacher, though the leader, they have their representation of you. You also have responsibilities in that representation, because you don't want to be misrepresented. That's the whole thing about the census, right? The census. So we need to have a consensus, a mutual consensus among ourselves, among the conscious people, the believing people, the common people. Let's not, speak above the heads of the people, because that's only going to hurt ourselves going forward. I just want to play this one clip before we transition to our closing remarks. I got the short one. I didn't get to do the other one. But this is just a short one from our dear brother, Al-Haj Malik Shabazz.
Negroes in this country are confronted by is with a re-education program, not a re-education program for whites, but a re-education program for black people themselves, to eliminate the negative image that has been through propaganda instilled within us of ourselves since we've been in this country. It'll take an entirely new approach to restore some kind of racial pride and racial dignity in the minds of the black people. And once we have this pride and this dignity, we can get the cohesiveness and the unity and harmony necessary to solve our own problems here in the black community, instead of waiting for representatives of the white community to come uptown and solve these problems for us.
Yeah, man, that's it. That's the knowledge right there, man. That's the knowledge right there, man.
So much.
Malcolm dropped it, man.
Yeah.
Malcolm dropped it. There's no more to be said. You'd be like, good night. Malcolm said it.
It's the knowledge, man. I mean, what like you said, brother Jihad, we used to. We don't want to say we don't want to keep saying we used to, man. We used to have fish. We used to bring the fish in from Peru. That's what I'm saying, we used to have the stick and takes. We used to have this, we used to have that. No, man. The time is up, man. At least here with New Freedom Exchange, and I'm glad you brought up the trust, establishing trust, because here at the New Freedom Exchange we have what we call the Bilalian Trust, and the Bilalian Trust is basically an effort to preserve and digitize our historical, our culture, our heritage. Through our culture, we have been in contact with a lot of pioneers as our travels, who have a lot of information from the first resurrection, a lot of the blueprints, a lot of very rare stuff. Not a lot of people have it. Maybe not a lot of people have it, or a lot of people held on to it. So the efforts here is just going to stream above everyone's screen. Below here is the PayPal for the Bilalian Trust. We just completed our first publication on the Human Dignity series, dating about the Creed movement. The Creed movement started by Imam Muhammad in the 1980s to remove all racial images of the divine. We stumbled upon, not stumbled, but we found some artifacts, some letters from the Imams, letters from Muhammad Ali, in reference to the Creed movement, etc., that we digitized in a nice publication that is available to you all who are watching and listening. Whoever wants to donate whatever amount of money you want, we're not asking. There's no specific. We'll send it to you as soon as you donate. That's it. But I just wanted to make that connection because the trust, establishing the trust is key. We want to establish our credit union. Back to our credit unions. We still have credit unions. I mean, we do. We have some, black-owned credit unions, but we want to build upon that which is had already. So that's another task that we're taking on as here as well as New Freedom Exchange, is establishing cooperative credit unions. Is to have the Bilalian Trust. We have this as the media tool. This outlet is the media tool. You know what I'm saying? But we have other projects or other umbrellas, just like you were describing, Jihad, how you have your umbrellas or your sub projects underneath your umbrella, underneath your LLC, or underneath. That's the same thing that we're doing. That's the same thing that we want to reciprocate in every area. We want to build in what Imam Muhammad's told us to build in the 4 areas of aspirations for human development. That is in the culture, that is in economics, that is the business. I mean, that's the culture, economics, education, and what I'm missing? Government and governance. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're about here in New Freedom Exchange. We're not just talking. Some people say we're just lipping, we're just lip servicing. It's not just lip. There's a lot more that goes behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know, and that we're steadily putting it out there. But as you hear tonight, for those who are listening, those who want to check out Jihad Ahmed, we have his information up here. For those who want to check him out, again, it's Facebook, Acres of Diamonds Media, on Monday nights from 6 to 8 p.m. Acres of Diamonds Media, Mondays 6 to 8. And then if you check him out, also Living Islam Today, Facebook page, Living Islam Today. He's also on Instagram, Acres of Diamonds, also on Instagram as well. And the garden, you don't want to miss the garden. You don't want to miss the garden.
You're going to lose your Sunni card, brother. Straight, raw, adult conversation.
It's nothing wrong with that. We need to have these raw conversations. So check out the garden, and that's where can people have fun in the garden at? Where people can listen to that, man.
It's coming soon.
Okay.
I'm trying. It's going to be undercover. It ain't going to be for everybody.
Gotcha.
But no, brother and sisters, I thank you all so very much for having me.
No,
it's an honor. I mean, I'm normally on the other side and done several interviews throughout my years, and it's good to be on the other side. It's really good. I think all like minds have to work together. I don't think everybody from my community and your community is going to buy into this concept of what it is we would like to do or see happen. And that's okay. I think that people have to come together. If we think alike and we're on the same page, like I'm on the page of the page that Imam W.D. Muhammad was on. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I'm on the page that Minister Farrakhan is on as far as economic development and do for self. Yeah, I'm on that page. So I'm under that same, I'm cut from that cloth of we got to do for self. Because we can't wait for nobody to come here and do for us what we can do for ourselves. It just doesn't make sense. And with all the technology out here today, all of us should have podcasts and fake Facebook Lives and Instagram putting out this information that we got of doing better. It's so important, man. It's just so important. I'm a fan of you. I'm a fan of you guys now. You just have to send me a reminder so I can tune in.
Okay.
We'll be on your show this Saturday, man. So
I got to call you about that
too. Good. Okay, yeah. What's up?
Yeah. We gonna line that up for Saturday. But but there's other shows. Even this is one, of course, yours, Jihad. You have the Dope Muslima, the Dope Muslim Woman podcast.
She's really good.
Sister Sabria Mills.
She's fire.
She's fire, man. I mean, you got some fire out here. I mean, you got people responding to what you're just saying, Brother Jihad. You have people who are actually putting out the content, putting out this rawness. I mean, you got people doing it. Then you got, and then you got the flam, the people who just get up there. Because, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to prolong, but sometimes, what happens is that there may be through the it may be oversaturation. What I mean by that is that you have to pick and choose. Sometimes you have to pick and choose. I'm not saying you have to pick and choose either to support Jihad or support us. We support each other. So it's a mutual thing. So I'm saying we asking you guys to support him. We asking you all to support us. But there's also this other aspect of there's some people who who just want to get on just for the sake of getting online, or just for the sake of getting on Instagram or whatever. It's really it's really becoming oversaturated. You notice how there's been a lot of spontaneous solidarity or spontaneous responses. Now everything is the Afro-American. They got Afro-American Muslims, African-American Muslims, the Black Imams Roundtable. You got all these different. I'm not saying all the respect to the brothers.
They're good, man.
Those are good people. They're good. You know what I'm saying. But I just want us to stay focused. So I'm saying on the bigger picture. So I'm saying at some point, like you said, at some point we all, especially as men, we all need to get together, man. So I'm saying we all need to get together. Now we can do it remotely now, and plan and strategically plan for our cities. So I'm saying, okay, you're in Philly. Okay, what are you doing in Philly? How can we support you in Philly? Okay, you're in New York. How can we support you in New York? Okay, you're in Newark. You're in Detroit. You're in Chicago. You're in LA. All these places, all these inner urban communities, centers, we should be talking, man. We should be engaging. We should be engaging more.
I feel you, brother, man. But I think it goes back to what I said. I love those. I love all of those imams who doing the Black Roundtable, the imam joint. I love that. Imam Naeem, Imam Luqman, Imam Amin,
I love them too. Yeah, we
Imam
love them.
Fahim. You gotta let them do what they're doing because they're making an impact with they're doing. And they got some really good topics.
Yes.
You gotta get with those who see your vision of what it is that what you want to do, and you gotta kind of treat this like we all in this together. Mm-hmm. We just coming from different. We got a different message. My show, The Garden, ain't going to be for everybody. Acres of Diamonds ain't going to be for everybody. Living Islam Today ain't going to be for everybody. But they may enjoy your show. They may say, and I know we got to get ready to wrap up. They might say that you lean more towards the teachings of Imam W.D. Muhammad. That's what they might say.
That's what they might say. That's what they might say.
Yeah. They might say that. And you say, okay, but there's still room for you to do what it is that you do. There's room for the Salafi community to do what they do. Everybody can play a role in healing our people. We can't lose our identity in doing it though. I'm not gonna lose my identity. I love to get dressed. I love suits. I love neckties. If you ever want to buy me something, my birthday is January 28th. I love neckties and bow ties. Yes. And I wear size 16 and a half in shirts. So I say all that to say that I'm with you, brother. Even if we don't agree with everything, I want to support what you guys are doing. And you just sit down and tell me, I'm going to give you my number. And you call me whenever you want to come on. Come to Philadelphia. Come to the studio on Saturdays. Let's make it happen, man. Let's do it. Let's work. Let's try to build something that's going to be tangible for our kids. Even if we don't see the unity and everything in our lifetime.
Right.
Let's still do it. Let's still work together. And I'm going to close and say that what we're trying to do, it has to be a ripple effect. It has to be a ripple. And I'll never forget, Brother Luqman Abdul Haq painted this picture for me. He said, Jihad, you got to look at everything that we doing and everything that you doing as you take a little pebble and you throw it into the water. But what do you get when you throw that pebble into the water or that rock? You get a ripple effect. Well, heck, what is a tsunami? It's a ripple effect. So that's how we got to be with our Islam. Me on social media, you guys on social media, me in law enforcement, we have to make an effect on the people. If we ain't affecting them, we just wasting time, brothers and sisters.
Marsha, this is Brother Deen, Brother Jihad Ahmed. This has been a wonderful, wonderful exchange.
Sister Marsha, she was quiet. She was quiet.
No. We're gonna Sister Marsha got something to say right now. So Sister Marsha,
I always got something to say. Today I just felt like, I should definitely give the others a chance, my brothers a chance to speak, but I definitely always have something to say. So my closing remarks is that we this show has been about two main things. One is media, and the other is sort of social responsibility. So let me talk about media. Media is an outlet that we should be using to tell our story and to tell a bigger and better story, one that does not exist in the mainstream on a large scale. And for those of us who are using these platforms to have our voices heard, my plea to you is to make sure that it's your best voice. And by that I mean that there's so many stories out here about what our communities aren't, and what our children aren't, and what we aren't as a people. Let's tell a better story. Let's be responsible about how we show up in the world, how we show up in media. And because of technology, we have so much more of an opportunity to do that nowadays. And so I charge you with that, to be able to use your voice in a bigger and better way. And then the second piece is that we talked a lot today about social responsibility, right? And so I wanted to at least make this point before we left, is that we each personally have a responsibility. And for us to ignore that is negligent. So know that when you have a family member or a friend that who is killing, selling drugs, just damaging the community, it's your responsibility to not just turn a blind eye to that. I'm not saying that you have to go and police your friends and family, but I am saying that in the respect of, we have to get back to pulling each other's coattails, right? Because it's not just law enforcement's responsibility to sort of rein the people in, because for law enforcement, when they're bringing the people in, for the most part, and I'm talking about our young people, they're going to jail. Well, how about as us being personally responsible, we bring our people in, right? We talked earlier about being responsible for a block. I'm taking it even to a more minute, segment to say, be responsible for your children. Be responsible for your family. Let's not keep turning a blind eye to what we know is going on in our households, and in our families as a whole. Like you know that it's your people, damaging the community. So please don't ignore it, because those are the things that we see as maybe little, that then have that ripple effect and become this big thing in the community. And then everybody wants to turn their backs and say, well, I don't know who. It's not benefiting any of us.
Excellent. And that's actually in the Sunnah as well. As you were saying, I was thinking of the Prophet Sallallahu and his Uswa. His character, he would, in battle or even in situations in the community, he wouldn't allow someone to just attack another person if it's a family member that knew that person, right? So he would obligate the family member to correct the family member before having someone else correct the individual. So I just want to give my closing remarks in reference to the Brothers Roundtable, as Bilal mentioned of, where we were addressing the, I think there's 12 points that we share collectively for us to have a this solidarity. Bilal mentioned about spontaneous solidarity. There's something else called a sustained solidarity.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to establish the sustainable solidarity in connection to the Brothers Roundtable and in community development and responsibility, number one, we do not steal from one another. Number two, we do not kill one another. Number three, we do not sell or offer drugs to one another. Number four, we do not combine our dollars, or we do combine our dollars and buy collectively as a group. Number five, we protect our own women and children first. As you hear them in the background being loud, as I'm doing the show. It is family night, so they did give me a little grace to knock this out. I'll finish up. Number six.
That's the Community Development Center.
You see the sign in the back of the little building. So we educate our own at every chance. We do not fight one another. Brothers protect and build up one another. Sisters protect and build up one another. Brothers protect and build up the sisters. Sisters protect and build up the brothers. We look for every opportunity to start business, education, culture, and governance with our people. So we just want to close with that. Brother Jihad, we'll give you the last say.
Well, he just closed out. He gave us a closing remark.
Oh, he did.
Unless you want to give him some more.
Man.
I must have been.
No, he's done, man. I mean, he got loose tonight, so
the
renegade, the rebel, himself. It's in his name. It's jihad. It's in his name, man. I mean, come on.
That's the struggle within, though, brother. Emmanuel.
Yeah, the struggle within.
Yeah. I'm struggling within.
I think they see your struggle coming out, though.
Oh man, but I appreciate you personally. You know how we go back. You know, you always look out for me wherever I'm at. You brought me on to your both of your platforms, so I got a piece of both worlds, able to share the bean pie and everything that we're doing. So we're gonna close out. We got two things we're gonna close out with. We got Bashir Jones, his joint called Freedom, and then we're gonna close out with a little bit of the Imam reminding us of our social responsibility for New Africa. Until next time, this has been New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community development empowerment. We were honored to hear with our dear brother Jihad Ahmed, with Ahmed Media, Acres of Diamonds, Living Islam Today. Check them out. And until next time, peace.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Really emotional, man. Bravo, I appreciate you, man. Mac, I appreciate you, man. Davey, what's up, man? It's our time, man. Jesse Jackson, he said that we are somebody. America treat us like we ain't nobody. We need help from somebody. I'm getting tired of seeing black bodies. We'll be okay, that's what my mama said. We unhealed, that's what the trauma said. Yes, we can. That's what Obama said. American terror. That's what Osama said. You want to break something, go and break the ceiling. You want to start something, go and start the healing. How you want to raise hell but won't raise your children? Want to burn the building but won't start building. I want the violence to decrease, whether it's the streets or it's the police. Yo, be a real one. Stay away from snakes. I gotta make a change, no time to waste.
Tell me what you see when you look at me. Is it something that you hate, or something that you wanna be? Help me understand how you can be so mad at my existence. On our way to freedom. On our way to freedom, fighting for our freedom, fighting for our freedom. On our way to freedom, on our way to freedom, fighting for our freedom, fighting for our freedom.
The system ain't broken, doing what it's supposed to do. Realest words spoken. Kill us in live and live in color. Brother choking, called on his mother, dead in the open. Anybody go and break some glass. It take a real one, bro, to give a class. Anyone can pull a gun and start to blast, but it takes a real man to give a pass. Be proactive, not reactive. How I make a change, Bashir? Be active. Boy, you go and sell some dope, but won't go and vote. Father left early, he don't know how to cope. I came too far, boy can't fail. They said I'm a sellout. Shit, what I sell? I don't never fold, I don't never fold. And what's not for sale, brother, is my soul. Question you gotta answer, brother, what's your goal? You wanna be a diamond or stay cold? You gotta change the system. Shit, you can break a window, but they gon' fix them. My point is, you expect a racist to change? He ain't the problem. You gotta change your brain. Benefit from oppression, but when you gon' change and learn the lesson? When you gon' realize that you a blessing? Gotta work, in the afterlife I'll do my resting. When you gon' realize that you the blessing? Gotta work, in the afterlife I'll do my resting. It's the truth.
Freedom is not won by a passive acceptance of suffering. Freedom is won by a struggle against suffering. Racial understanding is not something that we find, but something that we must create. What is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love, implementing the demands of justice. Justice at its best is love correcting everything that stands against.
Now, in concluding this, when the slave traders and the black traders of Africa, traitors, different, traitors, when the slave traders and the traitors of Africa called themselves Muslims, were fighting each other and carrying on and weakening their people over there so that the white traders come in there and get us, take us on slave ships and bring us here. Now, all right? Yeah. So now, when all that happened, what you think was happening to our human soul? Let me tell you, God has given me an eye to see into the very abstract form of the human being by my study of the Quran. Yes. Now, I'm going to tell you what was happening. I know, as if I was there. The soul of those victims had given up on this world. They knew they were going to their death. They knew they were going to circumstances that were going to finish them off. They would never have their lives again. They knew that. But in their soul, they were saying, our children will one day be free again, and they will serve God. We have failed, but our children will one day serve God. And now their prayer that they prayed in the deep recesses of their soul has come true. And not only of the descendants of the black people of Africa, from Islam, coming to Islam, taking up the divine cause, but those who never were Muslims, their children from Christianity, their children from Judaism, their children from paganism are embracing Islam in America. And we are going to build new Africa. New Africa, right here in the United States. Allahu Akbar. And the soul of those suffering victims, they're rejoicing because of us here today.